some days I look around and I need to be like inspired for what I'm gonna stream on any given day. And I've been thinking a lot about this since this happened. At the beginning of the month, a new indie fighting game was announced, Umbral Core. And there was some discussion about this. I'm always excited to see a brand new indie fighting game come out, right? We have a dark fantasy, right, themed fighting game in the vein of kind of like, I think Omen Sorrow for the PS4 was one of them. The Terrordrome games, kind of the like dark Mortal Kombat horror element. It caught my eye. It looks cool. It seems kind of right off the bat. It seems like it's chain based. One of the things they talk about in terms of like their core features is it's a approachable gameplay, so easy to get into, but then a high skill ceiling. But they don't actually explain how that like is gonna happen. So I'm curious about this game. Like I'm always like I keep an eye out for everything I can. I like the style of this game. I like the flow from what they've shown off, and it's great. There was some chatter about it. Look at this guy. You might recognize this dude, Maximillian dude, talking for a sneak peek. It's already looking quite good. Been secretly hoping that indie fighting game devs will really break the mold of the tried and true gameplay tropes in the genre. I 100% agree with this sentiment. I am also 100% confused as to why Umbral Core is the game that's being used to exemplify this sentiment. I totally agree. I want more indie fighting games to be breaking the mold. But they already are? They kind of always have been? This is what I'm confused about, where I'm like, you look at the indie sphere, and they have championed things like, as far back as Dive Kick and Fantasy Strike, you can go way farther back to the 2D Fighter Maker games and the Mugen games that do some really new and interesting and different stuff. The indie space is full of games that are breaking the mold and are largely ignored by the main influencers, not unlike Maximillian. This is what boggles my mind. And I see Umbral Core, which looks really cool. It looks interesting. I want to check it out. But does it look like it's breaking the mold? Not really. It looks like it's a 2D, fast-paced, chain system fighting game with some approachability tools, but it's going to have, some cancel systems or some kind of dash cancel mechanic or burst mechanic that's going to allow you to extend combos and get very complicated at a high level. Right? That's cool, but that's also so many games. That is so many fighting games. That is kind of the mold of fighting games. Right? And maybe aesthetically it's doing something a little bit different, which is also cool and also very appreciated. But once again, you look at stuff like what's coming out from Andrea D, who has the kind of the 90s 3D polygonal look down pat. You have folks who are already doing the kind of dark horror fantasy stuff like Terrordrome, like Omen Sorrow. It struck me where I just found it so weird for this comment about this game to get so much traction. Meanwhile, you have people talking about, and this might be a little bit of like sour grapes and chip on my shoulder as far as things are concerned. Where's the talk? Like, we talk about games like, and this is what brings me to what I'm streaming today, like Referral, where I freaked out the other day when everyone was like, indie games, they're all just the super stupid, simple, approachable things, right? And it's like, y'all don't even fucking talk about Referral. Like, it's a 2v2 fighting game. It looks kind of like, your standard anime versus style game off the bat. But it is 4-player co-op is the way it's designed. There's a 1v2 mode, there's a 2v2 mode, there's a 1-player mode. That kind of active in-battle tag mechanic is very rarely tried. And it's very rarely the focal point of a game. Street Fighter Cross Tekken did something similar. They had a 2v2 mode. It was the side thing, right? And then there was a couple major tournaments with it, and then you never saw it again. And it's like, there are things that we do as a community, though. Our community loves team events. I remember the days in the, like, Street Fighter 4 days where you would go to a major tournament, and it would be Saturday, Sunday would be your major, and that would be all your stuff. Everyone would show up on Friday night. They wouldn't go to the hotel ballroom, right? That wasn't open yet. They'd go to your weekly venue. They'd go to your game shop. They'd go to your barcade or whatever the case may be. There, where you'd run your weeklies usually, people were running team tournaments on a Friday night where you'd have, 3v3 teams. You'd have all these interesting combinations because people love that. There's whole team like Smash. The team format in Smash is huge. It's a huge part of the competitive scene. It's always a side thing to the main attraction, which is the 1v1. we have these things out there. It's like secretly hoping that an indie fighting game dev will break the mold. They already have, they currently are, and they will continue to break this mold. And I think we really need to start paying attention. And it would be lovely if some of our dudes like Maximillian, dude, who like legitimately, dude does a lot for the fighting game community, has worked his ass off to get to where they are. But they have these kind of like blinders on, where it's like, yeah, that's cool. I might see a niche game and play it once on stream and then forget it ever existed. And that's why you don't realize that this stuff is already happening. It's right under your nose. And honestly, Cerebral is one of those games, Punk and Emmy, that I have kind of been avoiding playing, in part because it's a 2v2 game, where I think it's going to shine when you get people involved. And I'm like, yo, I'll start playing it when I can convince someone to play along with me. But as the case may be, I just need to start playing it, and then I can convince someone else to join me. If I have a base understanding of the game, then I'm going to be able to get into it and show other people and bring them into it and hopefully kind of, build a bit of a group that wants to play. I'd love to get some legit, 2v2, 4 people in a match, playing some Cerebral. That's my goal. Yeah, he plays a lot of stuff, and you have a limited amount of time, and you're gonna be playing more of the stuff that is super successful for you. So yeah, absolutely. You're gonna be focusing in on your big games, and then your small games you're gonna play once, and then boom, you never see them again. And I mean, that's a damn shame. Like that's really all I'm saying is like, I think that's the reason tweets like this can come out and everyone be like, oh my god, Max, thanks for letting me know. And it's like, meanwhile, you got folks like, me and Griffey and Flinger who are just screaming from the rooftops about these amazing indie niche games that no one's paying attention to. And yeah, like I said, you see the chip here. It's dug into my shoulder. Like, I get it. It's less about me and it's more about, like, this is the stuff. I see how much people love and, like, are really receptive to this small indie stuff. And, man, like, the fact that an offhand tweet from Max about this has done more for the promotion of this game than the work of all of the niche fighting game folks combined could possibly do is kind of out of whack. Like, that is our bailiwick. It should be where people are going to for this kind of information. But, I mean, it's just the scale of audience is so much different. Yeah, Willie and his friends probably the best example of the, like to play a fighting game every single one of the fighting games. They play every single one of the fighting games. Sometimes only once. They also do a really good job of promoting a lot of the niche and indie stuff. I mean, there's a reason that it's important for these indie devs to get, like, you see them reaching out, being like, hey, Wooly, hey, Jay Wong, hey, Max, play my game. There was a whole thing in the Fantasy Strike community where people were trying to get Sage M to play the game. Unfortunately, that worked out by the developer of Fantasy Strike kind of pissing off Sage M, and there being a bit of a brouhaha involved there. Sometimes it doesn't work out in your favor. But, like, there's a reason that communities and devs and scenes want to get the attention of these influencers, right? But as I said before, we need fewer influencers and more communicators. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to try to communicate to y'all why Cerebral and Beatdown Dungeon Demon Day are worth playing and worth checking out, and why they're breaking the mold. So Cerebral, talked a bit about it. Like I said, it's the 2v2 4-player co-op fighting game, live switching. You have your assist character can move around in the background and do assist attacks, different kinds from different positions to help out with combos or to help out with pressure or mix-ups. And then they also have like a tag-in mechanic. Some really interesting things that I think if you have 2 really in-sync players who coordinate, you can do some fantastic stuff, and it could be wild. Think of the like versatility of assists in the most versatile assist game you can think of, which maybe be Skullgirls, where you can like assign your own assist. It takes it even a step further, where you have an active participant setting up positioning and as well as choosing the assist type. I think that's super dope. That's the co-op thing, right? But on the other end of the spectrum, what is another way you could break the mold, right? You can break the mold by doing this like tandem multiplayer thing, but you can break the mold by going single player. Beatdown Dungeon Demon Day is a sequel to a game that did this RPG fighting game mesh. And I never got to play the first one, and I've played a couple rounds in training mode just to see what the game feels like. But I want to go through today the single player, the demo for Beatdown Dungeon, and check out what kind of like single player content stuff is available in modern fighting games. This is another thing that's happened where you've seen Mortal Kombat games delve into single player content a lot. That's one of their big focuses. Even games like Power Quest on the Game Boy had a straight up like RPG overworld thing where you had to level up and fight random battles to earn money to upgrade your robot to continue, and it was all the battles were 1v1 Street Fighter style fighting games. Fighting RPG sounds super dope, right? So I want to see how Beatdown Dungeon handles that. Okay, well, yo, let's go see what the current version of Cerebral has in store for us, though. But first, yo, it's Niche Fighter Monday, right?